Time is the only resource you receive in equal measure with every other human being. No matter where you were born, what you own, or what you believe, you wake up each day with the same 24 hours. You cannot negotiate for more of it, borrow it from someone else, or store it for later use. Once a moment passes, it is permanently gone. Money can be earned again, mistakes can be corrected, and opportunities can sometimes return, but time never does. That reality alone should force us to treat it with respect, yet most people spend it carelessly as if they have an unlimited supply. What makes time so dangerous is that it disappears quietly. It does not announce its departure. Days blur into weeks, weeks into months, and before you realize it, years have passed. People often look back and wonder how they ended up where they are, not because of one major failure, but because of thousands of small moments wasted. A few minutes here, a few hours there, repeatedly given to distractions, excuses, and comfort. No single day feels like a disaster, but the accumulation of wasted time becomes one. Every decision you make is, at its core, a decision about how you spend your time. When you choose to delay action, you are spending time. When you choose comfort over effort, you are spending time. When you avoid a difficult conversation, a hard task, or a risky opportunity, you are spending time. The problem is that most people never ask themselves whether the return on that investment is worth it. They spend time on things that provide short-term pleasure but produce no long-term value, and then they are surprised when years pass without meaningful progress. Time exposes priorities more honestly than words ever could. You can say something matters to you, but your calendar will reveal the truth. If learning, health, growth, or building a better future truly mattered, they would consistently receive your time. Instead, time often flows toward what is easiest, loudest, or most immediately gratifying. This is not because people are incapable, but because they underestimate how quickly time compounds. Small daily choices may seem insignificant, yet repeated over a year, they shape your skills, your mindset, and ultimately your life. Another harsh truth about time is that it moves faster the longer you live. As children, years feel endless. As adults, they feel short. Responsibilities increase, routines take over, and before long, life feels like it is on fast forward. This illusion makes procrastination especially dangerous. Waiting feels harmless because tomorrow always seems available. In reality, tomorrow is never guaranteed, and even when it arrives, it often comes with more responsibilities and fewer options than today. Time also does not care about intentions. You may intend to start working on your goals next month, intend to improve yourself next year, or intend to take risks when conditions are better. But time does not reward intentions, it rewards action. It keeps moving whether you act or not. Many people reach a point where they are surrounded by regret, not because they lack dreams, but because they postponed acting on them for too long. There is also a cost to wasted time that goes beyond missed opportunities. When you repeatedly waste time, you slowly lose confidence in yourself. Each promise you break to yourself, each delay, each excuse sends a message that your own word does not matter. Over time, this erodes self-respect. On the other hand, when you use your time intentionally, even in small ways, you build trust with yourself. You begin to see yourself as someone who follows through, someone capable of growth and progress. Time is ruthless in its fairness. It does not make exceptions for fear, self-doubt, or difficult circumstances. While these challenges are real, time does not pause for them. People who succeed are not those with fewer problems, but those who decide that their time is too valuable to be wasted on avoidance. They understand that imperfect action today is more valuable than perfect planning tomorrow. When you realize that time is finite, urgency is no longer stressful, it becomes clarifying. You stop overthinking trivial matters. You become more selective about what deserves your attention. You begin to understand that saying yes to one thing is automatically saying no to another. This awareness forces better decisions. It pushes you to invest your time in activities that build skills, create value, strengthen relationships, and move you closer to the life you want. The tragedy is not that people fail, but that many never truly try because they keep assuming they have more time. They believe there will be a better moment, a safer moment, or a more convenient moment. Often that moment never arrives. Time does not reward those who wait, it rewards those who act while time is still available. Treating time as the most valuable currency changes how you live. You stop spending it recklessly and start investing it intentionally. You begin to understand that every hour wasted is an hour of your life you will never get back. Once that realization settles in, wasting time no longer feels harmless. It feels expensive. Comfort feels safe, familiar, and harmless, which is exactly why it is so dangerous. It does not announce itself as a threat. It does not look like failure or disaster. It looks like routine, ease, and stability. People settle into it slowly, telling themselves they deserve rest, that they will push harder later, that there is no urgency yet. Over time, comfort becomes a cage disguised as peace. Keeps people busy enough to feel productive, but safe enough to avoid real growth. Failure, on the other hand, is loud and uncomfortable. It exposes weaknesses, bruises the ego, and forces self-reflection. Most people fear it because it challenges their identity and threatens how they see themselves. Yet failure carries information. It teaches lessons that comfort never will. Every failure reveals what does not work, where improvement is needed, and what kind of effort is required to move forward. Comfort teaches nothing. It only preserves the current state. The danger of comfort is that it slowly lowers your standards. What once felt temporary begins to feel permanent. You stop questioning whether your current situation is good enough for your potential. Dreams that once felt urgent start to feel unrealistic. You convince yourself that ambition is risky and that stability is smarter. But stability without growth eventually turns into stagnation. When nothing challenges you, nothing changes, and when nothing changes, life quietly passes by. Comfort also creates the illusion of control. As long as things feel predictable, people believe they are safe. They avoid risks because risk feels unnecessary when life is manageable. But avoiding risk does not eliminate danger, it simply delays it. Skills become outdated, opportunities pass, and confidence weakens. When change eventually becomes unavoidable, those who stayed comfortable are often the least prepared to adapt. Failure forces adaptation. It demands resilience, creativity, and effort. It pushes people to develop skills they would never bother learning if things were easy. Someone who has never failed has never been truly tested. Without testing, potential remains theoretical. Growth requires pressure, and failure provides that pressure. It breaks the illusion that talent alone is enough and replaces it with the understanding that progress is earned through persistence. Comfort is especially dangerous because it feels justified. People rationalize staying where they are by pointing to responsibilities, age, or circumstances. They tell themselves that now is not the right time to take risks. But there is rarely a perfect time. Waiting for ideal conditions often means waiting forever. Failure at least moves you forward. Even when it hurts, it clarifies direction. Comfort keeps you stationary, quietly convincing you that movement is optional. Another hidden cost of comfort is regret. Regret rarely comes from trying and failing. It comes from not trying at all. Most people do not look back and wish they had taken fewer chances. They wish they had acted sooner, spoken up, started earlier, and pushed harder. Comfort robs people of these experiences. It trades short-term ease for long-term dissatisfaction. Failure also builds character in ways comfort never can. It teaches humility, patience, and grit. When you fail, you learn how to handle disappointment without quitting. You learn how to get back up when things do not go your way. These qualities are not developed in comfortable environments. They are forged through struggle. Without struggle, resilience remains undeveloped and life becomes fragile. Comfort makes people overly attached to outcomes. They fear losing what they have, even if what they have is far below their potential. Fear prevents bold decisions. Failure, by contrast, reduces fear over time. Once you fail and survive, you realize that failure is not the end. It becomes a temporary state, not a permanent identity. This realization is freeing. It encourages experimentation, learning, and growth. The irony is that comfort often leads to the very thing people fear most, failure. By avoiding small failures early, people set themselves up for much bigger failures later. A career left unchallenged can collapse suddenly. A skill left undeveloped can become irrelevant. A life spent avoiding risk can end in deep dissatisfaction. Small failures early are manageable and instructive. Comfort delays them until they become unavoidable and far more damaging. Choosing growth over comfort requires courage. It means accepting uncertainty and embracing discomfort. It means being willing to look inexperienced, make mistakes, and fail publicly. But this discomfort is temporary. The confidence and capability built through effort lasts much longer. Comfort feels good now, but costs you later. Failure feels painful now, but pays you back with strength, clarity, and progress. People who grow learn to associate discomfort with progress. They understand that feeling uncomfortable often means they are stretching beyond their limits. Comfort, in contrast, becomes a warning sign. When everything feels too easy for too long, it usually means growth has stopped. Those who succeed do not eliminate fear. They act in spite of it. They choose the discomfort of effort over the emptiness of ease. In the end, comfort is not neutral. It is not a harmless pause. It is an active force that pulls people away from their potential. Failure, while feared, is a teacher and a catalyst. One keeps you safe but small. The other challenges you but expands who you become. Choosing between them is not about avoiding pain. It is about deciding which pain is worth it. Motivation is exciting, emotional, and powerful, but it is unreliable. It comes in waves, often triggered by a video, a speech, a moment of inspiration, or a sudden realization. In those moments, energy feels limitless and change feels easy. People set goals, make promises, and imagine a better version of themselves. The problem is that motivation fades. It always does. When the excitement wears off and reality sets in, motivation disappears, leaving most people right where they started. Discipline is different. Discipline does not depend on mood, emotion, or inspiration. It operates quietly and consistently. It shows up on ordinary days, on boring days, and on hard days. Discipline does not care whether you feel confident or tired, excited or doubtful. It simply demands action. This is why discipline, not motivation, is what actually creates results over time. Motivation is often mistaken for commitment. Feeling motivated feels like progress, but it is not. Planning, talking, and imagining change can be comforting substitutes for real work. Discipline for execution. It turns intention into behavior. Without discipline, motivation becomes a trap that keeps people cycling between excitement and disappointment. They feel inspired, start strong, slow down, quit, and then wait for the next wave of motivation to begin again. Life does not reward those who act only when they feel like it. Responsibilities do not pause because you are tired. Challenges do not disappear because you lack motivation. Discipline is what allows people to perform regardless of circumstances. Creates structure in chaos and consistency in uncertainty. When discipline is in place, progress continues even when motivation is absent. Another weakness of motivation is that it is often tied to outcomes rather than process. People feel motivated when they see quick results, praise, or recognition. When progress slows or effort goes unnoticed, motivation drops. Discipline, however, focuses on the process. It is rooted in habits and standards, not immediate rewards. This makes discipline far more sustainable because it is not dependent on external validation. Discipline also builds self-trust. Every time you do what you said you would do, even when it is uncomfortable, you reinforce your belief in yourself. Over time, this compounds into confidence. Motivation cannot do this consistently because it is too unpredictable. Discipline turns reliability into identity. You begin to see yourself as someone who shows up, who follows through, and who can be counted on. Many people wait for motivation before starting, believing they need to feel ready first. This is backwards. Action creates motivation, not the other way around. Discipline pushes you to take the first step, and once you are in motion, motivation often follows. Movement generates momentum. Waiting to feel motivated keeps people stuck at the starting line. Discipline also protects you from emotional decision-making. When you rely on motivation, your actions rise and fall with your emotions. On good days, you overcommit. On bad days, you withdraw. Discipline creates rules and routines that remove emotion from the equation. You do the work because it is scheduled, because it is required, because it aligns with your standards. This consistency is what produces long-term growth. The discipline to do small, unglamorous tasks is what separates those who succeed from those who only dream. Progress is rarely dramatic. It is built through repetition, patience, and effort. Motivation wants excitement and quick wins. Discipline accepts boredom and delay. It understands that mastery is the result of thousands of ordinary actions done consistently over time. Discipline also strengthens mental resilience. When you repeatedly push through discomfort, resistance loses its power. Tasks that once felt difficult become routine. This expands your capacity. You become capable of handling more responsibility, more pressure, and more challenge. Motivation cannot provide this resilience because it avoids discomfort rather than embracing it. People often believe discipline is restrictive, but in reality, it is freeing. When your habits are disciplined, you gain control over your time, energy, and direction. You are no longer at the mercy of impulses or moods. You stop negotiating with yourself every day. Decisions become simpler because your standards are clear. The absence of discipline leads to chaos. Goals change constantly. Effort is inconsistent. Progress stalls. Discipline creates order. It aligns daily actions with long-term vision. It ensures that even on days when you feel uninspired, you are still moving forward. Motivation may start the journey, but it cannot sustain it. Discipline is what carries you through resistance, fatigue, and doubt. It is what turns potential into reality. Without discipline, motivation is just a temporary emotional high. With discipline, even the absence of motivation cannot stop progress. Most people believe confidence is something you must have before you take action. They think confidence comes first and action comes second. This belief keeps millions of people stuck. They wait until they feel ready, until fear disappears, until self-doubt is gone. The problem is that confidence rarely appears on its own. It is not a prerequisite for action. It is a result of it. Waiting to feel confident before acting is like waiting to get fit before going to the gym. Confidence is built through experience, not imagination. You cannot think your way into confidence. You earn it by doing difficult things repeatedly and surviving them. Every time you take action despite fear, you send a message to yourself that you are capable. That message becomes the foundation of real confidence. Without action, confidence remains a fantasy, something you hope to feel one day but never quite do. Fear is often misunderstood. People assume fear means they are not ready or not capable. In reality, fear usually appears when something matters. It signals growth, not danger. If you wait for fear to disappear, you will wait forever. Action does not eliminate fear. It teaches you how to move with it. Each time you act while afraid, fear loses some of its control. Confidence grows in its place. The first action is usually the hardest, because you have no evidence to support belief in yourself. You have not proven anything yet. That is why hesitation feels so strong at the beginning. Once you act even imperfectly, you create evidence. You begin to build a track record. Small wins accumulate. Confidence grows not from the size of the action, but from the fact that you acted at all. Perfectionism is another enemy of action. People delay because they want to get everything right before starting. They want the perfect plan, the perfect timing, the perfect skills. This pursuit of perfection is often disguised fear. It feels responsible, but it is actually avoidance. Action clarifies what thinking cannot. You learn more from doing something imperfectly than from planning perfectly. Action also creates momentum. Once you start moving, resistance decreases. What felt overwhelming when you were standing still feels manageable once you are in motion. Confidence feeds on momentum. The more you act, the easier it becomes to continue. Waiting keeps resistance high. Action lowers it. Confidence built without action is fragile. It collapses at the first sign of difficulty. Confidence built through action is durable. It has been tested. When challenges appear, you do not panic because you have handled difficulty before. You trust yourself not because you believe you are special, but because you have evidence that you can adapt. Social comparison often weakens confidence. People look at others who seem more skilled, more experienced, or more successful and assume they are behind. This comparison creates hesitation. What is rarely seen is the amount of action those people took while they were unprepared. Everyone who appears confident today was once uncertain. The difference is that they acted anyway. Action also reshapes identity. When you repeatedly take action aligned with your goals, you begin to see yourself differently. You stop seeing yourself as someone who wants to change and start seeing yourself as someone who does. Identity shifts follow behavior, not the other way around. Confidence grows naturally when your actions are consistent with who you want to become. Failure is an essential part of this process. Action does not guarantee success. It guarantees learning. Each failure provides feedback. It shows you what to adjust, what to improve, and what to try differently. Confidence does not come from never failing. It comes from realizing you can fail and still move forward. This realization removes the fear of starting. Waiting for confidence often means waiting for permission. Permission from others, from circumstances, or from some imaginary sign that now is the right time. Action is self-permission. It is a declaration that you do not need external validation to begin. This independence is a major source of confidence. Confidence is not loud or arrogant. It is quiet and grounded. It comes from knowing that you can take action even when conditions are not perfect. It comes from trusting your ability to learn, adapt, and persist. That trust cannot be built through thinking alone. It is built through repeated action. The truth is that no one feels fully ready. Those who move forward simply decide that readiness is not required. They understand that action is the price of confidence. They pay that price again and again, and over time, confidence becomes a byproduct of their willingness to act first. Your future is not shaped by one dramatic decision or a single life-changing moment. It is shaped quietly, daily, through habits. Habits are small actions repeated so often that they become automatic. Because they feel ordinary, people underestimate their power, yet these repeated behaviors are constantly shaping skills, mindset, health, relationships, and opportunities. Long before results become visible, habits are already deciding outcomes. Habits work in the background. You may not notice their effect today, tomorrow, or even next month, but over time they compound. A small positive habit practiced daily slowly builds momentum. A small negative habit practiced daily slowly creates damage. The danger is that both feel insignificant in the moment. Skipping learning for a day feels harmless. Avoiding effort once feels justified. But repetition turns these choices into patterns, and patterns turn into identity. Most people focus on goals and ignore habits. Goals feel exciting and motivating. Habits feel boring and repetitive. But goals only define direction. Habits determine progress. You can have ambitious goals, but if your daily habits do not support them, those goals remain wishes. The life you end up living will reflect your habits, not your intentions. Habits also shape how you think. The way you start your day, the information you consume, and the conversations you engage in influence your mindset. If your habit is to begin each day distracted, rushed, or reactive, your thinking becomes scattered. If your habit is to start with focus, learning, or discipline, your thinking becomes clear and more intentional. Over time, your habitual thinking becomes your default way of seeing the world. One of the most powerful aspects of habits is that they remove decision making. When a behavior becomes habitual, it no longer requires motivation or willpower. You do it automatically. This can work for you or against you. Poor habits make self-destructive behavior effortless. Strong habits make productive behavior effortless. Your future depends on which behaviors you make automatic. Habits also influence self-identity. Every repeated action is a vote for the type of person you believe you are. When you consistently follow through, you reinforce the identity of someone reliable and disciplined. When you consistently avoid effort, you reinforce the identity of someone who quits or delays. Over time, you stop questioning these identities because they feel true. Your habits quietly convince you of who you are. Many people wait for major change before changing habits. They believe that once circumstances improve, they will behave differently. This is rarely true. Behavior changes circumstances, not the other way around. If your habits are weak now, they will remain weak even when opportunities appear. Strong habits prepare you to handle better opportunities when they arrive. Another reason habits are so powerful is that they compound emotionally. Consistent positive habits build confidence and self-respect. Each day you do what you said you would do. You strengthen trust in yourself. This confidence carries into other areas of life. Negative habits compound in the opposite direction. Repeated avoidance weakens self-belief and increases self-doubt. Over time, this internal damage becomes more limiting than any external obstacle. Habits also determine how you respond to difficulty. When discipline is habitual, effort becomes normal. Challenges feel manageable because you are used to doing hard things. When comfort is habitual, resistance feels overwhelming. The same challenge that strengthens one person can break another simply because of the habits they have built over time. The future does not arrive suddenly. It is built invisibly through daily routine. By the time results become obvious, habits have already done their work. This is why people are often surprised by where they end up. They did not plan to fail or succeed. They simply repeated behaviors long enough for outcomes to appear. Changing habits is uncomfortable because habits protect the status quo. They are designed to conserve energy, not maximize growth. But discomfort is temporary. Once a new habit is established, effort decreases. Once felt difficult becomes normal. This is how growth becomes sustainable. Your habits are constantly designing your future, whether you are paying attention or not. They are shaping what you know, how you think, what you can handle, and what you believe is possible. Ignoring them does not stop their influence. It only allows them to work without your consent. When you understand the power of habits, responsibility becomes clear. You do not need to change everything at once. You need to change what you repeat. Small daily improvements, when sustained, create massive transformation over time. The future you want is not built by motivation or luck. It is built quietly, daily, by the habits you choose to keep. At some point in life, everyone has to face an uncomfortable truth. No one is coming to save you. Not a mentor who will magically fix everything. Not a perfect opportunity that will suddenly change your situation. Not a future version of yourself who will somehow be more disciplined, more confident, or more prepared without you doing the work now. Believing that someone or something will rescue you keeps you passive, and passivity is one of the fastest ways to waste potential. From an early age, many people are conditioned to wait. Wait for instructions, wait for permission, wait for approval, wait for the right time. This mindset carries into adulthood. People wait for motivation, for confidence, for support, for circumstances to improve. They assume that once external conditions change, action will become easier. What they fail to realize is that waiting trains dependence. It teaches the mind that responsibility belongs somewhere else. Taking responsibility is uncomfortable because it removes excuses. When you accept that no one is coming to save you, you also accept that your situation, whether good or bad, is now in your hands. This does not mean you caused everything that happened to you. Life is unfair and circumstances can be difficult. The responsibility is not about blame, it is about control. The moment you take responsibility, you gain power. As long as you give that responsibility away, you remain stuck. Many people confuse support with rescue. Support can help, but it cannot replace effort. Advice, resources, and encouragement are useful only when paired with action. No amount of external help will matter if you are unwilling to change your behavior. People who wait to be saved often ignore opportunities that require effort. They want solutions without struggle, progress without discomfort, results without discipline. The belief that someone else will save you also weakens resilience. When things go wrong, it becomes easy to feel helpless. You blame circumstances, people, or systems. This mindset keeps you reactive instead of proactive. Those who accept responsibility respond differently to challenges. They ask what they can do, what they can learn, and how they can adapt. This shift in thinking is the foundation of growth. Waiting for rescue also delays action. People tell themselves stories like, I'll start when I have more time, I'll change when things calm down, or I'll take this seriously when I feel ready. These conditions are rarely met. Life becomes more complex, not less. Responsibilities increase, time feels scarcer. If you do not act now, you are training yourself to delay indefinitely. Another hidden cost of waiting to be saved is loss of self-trust. Every time you avoid responsibility, you send a message to yourself that you cannot handle things on your own. Over time, this belief becomes part of your identity. You begin to doubt your ability to solve problems, make decisions, and follow through. This self-doubt becomes a barrier stronger than any external obstacle. Accepting that no one is coming to save you does not mean isolating yourself or rejecting help. It means understanding that help works best when you are already moving. Momentum attracts support. Effort invites opportunity. People are far more willing to assist someone who is taking responsibility than someone who is waiting to be carried. There is also freedom in this realization. When you stop waiting for permission or rescue, you stop wasting energy on hope that depends on others. You begin to act based on what you can control. This creates clarity. Instead of asking why life is unfair, you ask what the next step is. Instead of waiting for confidence, you build it through action. Responsibility sharpens priorities. When you know no one else will fix things for you, excuses lose their appeal. Complaining feels pointless. You become more intentional with your time and effort. You stop expecting life to adjust to you and start adjusting yourself to life. This mindset is not harsh, it is empowering. People who succeed are not those who had everything figured out. They are those who stopped waiting to be saved. They accepted uncertainty and moved anyway. They understood that progress comes from ownership, not entitlement. They did not wait for perfect conditions. They created momentum with imperfect action. The world does not reward potential. It rewards responsibility. Talent, intelligence, and ambition mean very little without ownership. Once you accept that your life is your responsibility, your behavior changes. You become more disciplined, more proactive, and more resilient. You stop asking who will help you and start asking how you can help yourself. This realization can feel heavy at first, but it is also the moment when growth truly begins. When you stop waiting for rescue, you stop living passively, you stop drifting, you step into control. And from that point forward, every improvement in your life becomes a result of choices you made, not chances you waited for. Being busy is one of the most deceptive traps people fall into. On the surface, it looks productive. People see activity, meetings, emails, errands, calls, and projects and assume that time spent in motion equals progress. Being busy feels important. It gives the illusion of purpose and achievement. However, activity and productivity are not the same. Busy work often consumes energy without moving you closer to meaningful results. Many people spend years feeling productive while their lives are actually stagnant. The difference between being busy and being productive lies in intentionality. Busy people react to what demands attention, not what matters most. Their day is dictated by notifications, interruptions, or minor urgencies rather than deliberate focus on their highest priorities. Productivity, on the other hand, is the art of choosing the right actions to produce the desired outcomes. It is about impact, not effort. You can work tirelessly for hours and accomplish little, or work selectively with purpose and accomplish a great deal. Busyness is also a form of avoidance. People fill their schedules with tasks because action is easier than decision making. Handling small, unimportant tasks feels safe. It provides the appearance of progress while distracting from uncomfortable decisions, challenges, or strategic thinking. Real growth requires addressing difficult problems, making risky moves, and focusing on what truly drives results. Busy work often allows people to postpone these critical actions indefinitely. Another danger of busyness is that it masks inefficiency without reflection. People continue doing the same tasks repeatedly without evaluating whether they contribute to long-term goals. Habits of busyness form over time, creating a cycle where effort is spent maintaining appearances rather than creating value. The mind becomes accustomed to being in motion, equating movement with success even when results do not improve. Over months and years, this illusion erodes both effectiveness and self-awareness. Time spent being busy often comes at the expense of high-leverage activities. These are tasks that produce disproportionate results compared to the effort invested. Examples include strategic planning, learning new skills, networking with the right people, or creating assets that compound over time. When someone is consumed by low-value tasks, these high-leverage opportunities are neglected. Being busy feels urgent, but high-leverage work feels challenging and sometimes uncomfortable, which is why it is often avoided. Mental fatigue is another consequence of busyness. Constantly reacting to minor demands creates stress, distraction, and burnout. The brain becomes cluttered with shallow tasks, leaving little energy for deep focus. Productivity requires not only action, but also clarity and mental bandwidth. People who confuse busyness with productivity are often exhausted without tangible progress. Their energy is spent maintaining appearances rather than building momentum toward meaningful objectives. Busyness also distorts perception of success. When a person is constantly doing, it can feel like they are making progress even if measurable results are absent. This can lead to self-deception. Months of effort are consumed, yet long-term goals remain unmet. Reflection and honest evaluation reveal that busyness is a substitute for strategy. People often praise themselves for working hard, but without discernment, hard work alone is insufficient. Prioritization is the antidote to busyness. Productivity requires making conscious choices about what deserves your time and attention. Saying no to unimportant tasks is essential. Focus on activities that align with your goals, create value, and move the needle forward. This requires discipline and courage, because it often means disappointing others, declining requests, or breaking habits of habitual activity. The reward is far greater, meaningful progress instead of mere motion. Busyness also limits personal growth. When time is consumed by minor tasks, there's little room for learning, reflection, or skill development. Growth requires intentional investment in activities that stretch capabilities, such as reading, practicing, experimenting, or taking on challenging projects. Busy work creates the illusion of a full schedule, but it crowds out the very practices that lead to advancement. People can spend decades busy without truly evolving. The contrast between busy people and productive people often lies in mindset. Busy people focus on what is visible and immediate. Productive people focus on what is impactful and lasting. Productivity is not measured by hours worked, but by results achieved. The ability to distinguish between urgent and important is critical. High performers consistently act on what matters most while minimizing low-value activities. Technology and connectivity make business even more dangerous. Notifications, emails, and social media create constant demands for attention. The temptation to respond immediately reinforces the cycle of busyness, pulling focus from strategic work. Mastery of productivity requires controlling inputs and creating boundaries. Without this control, the day is dictated by external pressures rather than internal priorities. In essence, being busy is a trap that confuses motion with progress. It keeps people occupied while their goals stagnate. Productivity, in contrast, is deliberate, focused, and outcome-oriented. It requires saying no to distractions, choosing high-value actions, and investing time where it counts. Understanding this difference is essential because your life will ultimately be shaped not by how busy you were, but by how purposeful and effective your actions were. Being busy may feel important, but true achievement comes from being productive. Respecting yourself requires more than fleeting effort or temporary motivation. It demands consistent, intentional action over time. Making 2026 a year you respect yourself begins with understanding that every choice you make contributes to your self-perception. Your habits, your decisions, and your persistence in the face of challenges all shape the story you will tell yourself at the end of the year. Respect is not given, it is earned through the alignment of values and actions, through doing what you know you should even when it is hard, uncomfortable, or inconvenient. Self-respect is rooted in accountability. When you take ownership of your actions, both successes and failures, you reinforce your integrity. Avoiding responsibility, blaming others, or making excuses may provide temporary relief, but it erodes self-trust over time. Each time you confront a difficult situation with honesty and effort, you build a stronger sense of personal authority. This foundation of accountability creates confidence, resilience, and the ability to navigate increasingly complex challenges without losing composure or moral clarity. Consistency is another pillar of self-respect. It is not enough to act with discipline once or sporadically. True respect comes from patterns of behavior repeated over days, weeks, and months. Small actions, when repeated consistently, compound into habits that define your character. A single day of productivity or courage is commendable, but it does not define you. Repetition of effort builds momentum and reinforces the belief that you are someone who can be relied upon by yourself and by others. Integrity matters as much as results. Respecting yourself is not merely about achieving goals, it is about achieving them in a way that aligns with your principles. Cutting corners, lying, or compromising your values may produce short-term gains, but it corrodes your internal sense of worth. A year spent chasing results at the cost of integrity is a year of self-betrayal. Conversely, making choices that honor your principles, even when they are difficult, strengthens the inner voice that affirms you are capable, worthy, and dependable. Courage plays a critical role in building self-respect. Respect is often a reward for choosing action over comfort, for confronting fear instead of retreating. It is about tackling challenges that feel too big, speaking the truth when it is uncomfortable, and making decisions that require strength even when the path is uncertain. Each act of courage, no matter how small, reinforces the narrative that you are capable of rising to challenges, that you do not shrink from difficulty, and that you can face life on your own terms. Setting high standards is essential. Respecting yourself means refusing to settle for mediocrity or complacency. It means demanding more from yourself than convenience or laziness would allow. High standards shape behavior, choices, and priorities. When you commit to excellence in your work, relationships, and personal growth, you cultivate a sense of pride and self-worth that cannot be easily shaken. Conversely, low standards invite regret, frustration, and the feeling that you have let yourself down. Another component of self-respect is reflection, taking the time to evaluate your progress, confront mistakes, and a just course demonstrates maturity and awareness. It allows you to recognize where effort has been effective and where improvement is needed. Reflection is not about self-criticism, it is about honesty and growth. By regularly assessing your actions, you reinforce accountability, deepen insight, and prevent patterns of neglect or wasted effort from taking root. Discipline and delayed gratification are also crucial. Respecting yourself often means doing what is necessary rather than what is easy or immediately gratifying. Choosing long-term value over short-term pleasure builds resilience and reinforces the belief that you are someone who can endure discomfort for a greater purpose. Each time you make the disciplined choice, you reinforce your internal standards and enhance your sense of self-worth. Relationships are an extension of self-respect. How you treat others reflects how you treat yourself. Maintaining boundaries, showing kindness, and engaging authentically with others fosters mutual respect and reinforces your own dignity. Conversely, tolerating toxic influences, neglecting meaningful connections, or compromising your values to please others diminishes your internal sense of worth. Choosing to prioritize healthy relationships is an act of self-respect. Finally, self-respect grows when you celebrate your own progress while remaining committed to improvement. Recognizing effort, perseverance, and growth nurtures a positive internal dialogue which strengthens confidence and motivation. It allows you to see setbacks as learning experiences rather than personal failures. By honoring your journey and the choices you make, you reinforce the idea that you are a person worth valuing and trusting. Making 2026 a year you respect yourself requires conscious effort in all these areas: accountability, consistency, integrity, courage, high standards, reflection, discipline, and meaningful relationships. Each day presents opportunities to make choices that reinforce self-worth or diminish it. Respect is cumulative, built one decision at a time, repeated and refined throughout the year. By committing to deliberate, value-driven actions, you shape not only the outcomes of 2026, but also the person you will see when you reflect on it.